not good enough to remind me to record. Sorry about that. That's probably the most important part. Now, I know there's been also a lot of questions I've seen on what happens if somebody is sick, right? And so I hope you can kind of see this on your screens. If not, it's on the website already. But this is kind of a little flow chart. What might kind of what will happen, right? If a child starts to demonstrate, or an adult demonstrate some of the symptoms. According to our local health department, everything we've read and been told by our health and safety experts, et cetera, is the fever is kind of the key piece of this whole thing, right? And so if a child has a fever, no, right? And this is and they're sent to the nurse. So there's a little this. A teacher or a staff member, or even the kid, maybe feels they have a fever, right? And so then they will be sent to the nurse's office, and so the nurse will begin to kind of do their assessment. If there is no fever, if their temperature is 97 and there's no other symptoms, then they're going to most likely be sent back to class at that point. But if there is a fever, then the nurses will check for additional symptoms. Every parent knows that a lot of those COVID symptoms are the symptoms for everything else kids get, especially in the fall. But with the fever, all right, that will trigger some additional action. So if there are no other symptoms, but they do have a fever, all right, we will be sending them home. Right? And we will be sending them home, calling you to come get your child, and they will have to remain home for 48 hours fever-free without any medicine help. Okay? And then prior to returning, you will have to complete the health screening. Or you can take them right to a doctor and get a note from your doctors if you don't want to wait 48 hours. But so again, if there's no other symptoms but fever, they still will be sent home, right? And they need to then stay home for 48 hours minimally, fever-free, before they can come back. Now, if they have additional symptoms plus the fever, all right, then we will be isolating your child. We'll be putting them into a different room, right, in our building. And the parent will come and pick them up, and then we will activate our own COVID response here in the school. And then the parent will need to then take your child to a physician or the health office, the health department, right? And then your health provider will then determine whether a test is needed or not. Okay, so it's now into the hands of the experts, the doctors, the physicians. Okay, and so what we're being told by the Department of Health, what will occur, right, is then, let's say if the physician says a test is needed, they decide to take a test, so they will then test your child, and if the test, and then while you're waiting for the test, you will be quarantined in your home. The child will be quarantined in their homes at that time. So the results come back, right, negative, the kid can come back to school. If the results come back positive, right, then the quarantine will continue for the remainder of the 14 days, and then they'll be able to return to school as well, right? If a positive result comes back, the district will activate our contact tracing, and we'll work with the Department of Health to determine who else may then be asked to be tested, quarantined, etc. Right? But until we get a positive result, there'll be nobody else will be quarantined, except with the exception of family members, right? So and that's the process that's being used for that. So again, this is certainly a snapshot overview. There's a lot of smaller pieces within this that we will be doing throughout this process. For instance, our COVID response is then, if a child, let's say, was in a certain classroom, third grader, let's say, we will, keep that room empty for up to 24 hours and then clean and disinfect right before going back into the room for that. We are looking for spaces where the kid has been for more than 15 minutes, so we will not be disinfecting any more than we normally would hallways and things like that. They're not in them or standing in one spot for that long. So there's a whole series of steps that we must take as far as our COVID response in that regard. But I just wanted to put this out here just because I know there's been a lot of questions on what happens if a kid has a fever or even tests positive for COVID. So we've been having many conversations with our Department of Health. Then we compare notes with our colleagues from Rensselaer and Columbia County minimally, and we're as consistent as possibly regionally as well in this regard. So So we do have some plans and protocols in place. And again, it's been vetted and looked at by many folks in our health community and health fields, and just our safety coordinators as well that we have. So again, if the physician does recommend no test, all right, then he'll just give a note also to your student and return back to school. Along with this is our idea of equity. And equity for us means you won't be able to know who's going to be successful when they walk in our doors. All right. So there's no prejudgment on a child for that. And so two areas that we're going to, obviously focusing on is redefining ready. We're going to really be focusing on the whole child and be tracking the readiness indicators, so we know our kids are overall ready for the next level. We strongly believe that kids are more than a test score here at Coxsackie-Athens, right? And we feel that the disposition and attributes that are part of our readiness indicators, which we will be rolling out to parents, et cetera, here when school starts, are a much better indicator of success for our students than how they did on a test, whether it's a midterm, a final, or a regents exam, or a state test, right, for that. So we feel it's a more equitable way to make sure all of our kids achieve extraordinary success. We also, we're kind of calling this whole model, we're doing our dynamic model, where in-person combined with remote. And again, all of our decisions based on equity will be that, because we know a certain number of students will be choosing remote learning. And so we will do everything in our control to make sure that they have the same equitable access to learning as the kids who are here in person as well. And so we've come up with several scenarios and models depending on how many kids are remote versus how many kids are in person, and by grade levels and such like that at all levels as we go forward. We also know that our plan has to be flexible, and so a lot of what we may be doing in person will allow us to then do fully remote as well. Right? So again, just like years past, every child will have an iPad, school-issued iPad, whether in person or remote, and we will work with all of our families to make sure they have adequate internet access. I will also just announce, and just want to, as many times as we can, just remind you, the first day of school for grades 1 through 12 is Thursday, September 10th. Kindergarten will start on the 21st. Kindergarten screenings will take place that first week of school, and then classes will be designed and such at that point. That's for remote and in-person kindergartners. In the month of September, we're going to have 2 remote days, pre-planned full remote days. We want to test out the model, want to make sure it's working, so we can make sure there's no bugs in the system, so to speak, prior to, and again, just in case, we have to do that at a moment's notice. So there are 2 dates in September, 16th and the 30th will be full remote days K-12. The kids will stay home. Right, and the teachers will be teaching them remotely. There'll be very more specific information as far as the times, etc. Excuse me, but I just wanted to mention that as often as I can. Right, so if you have to plan any type of child care, those 2 days. All right, the day. We will have daily in-school learning. Class sizes limited to DOH. At the elementary level, we don't anticipate any classes being much larger than 16 if we're fully all here. And I'm not anticipating everybody's going to be in person when the school year starts. So it'll be very, very attractive class sizes for in-person learning here physically. Students at the elementary level remain in their classrooms for all day. Most of the specials will be coming to them. The exception will be phys ed for the most part, and there might be an occasional visit to the library, for books and things like that. But for the most part, the kids will stay in their own small cohort for the entire day they are here. They'll go to lunch together. They'll be separated at lunch from everybody else. Recess, the same thing. So with that, we will maximize recess. We always have scheduled recess. And then, we'll try to make it even more recess, weather permitting, so more outside, the better. I think I mentioned earlier, breakfast for elementary students will be eaten in the classroom. It'll be kind of a grab and go. So they'll grab their breakfast as they're coming in to their classrooms, and they'll have time to eat their breakfast in their classrooms. Lunch will be served and eaten in the cafeteria. Again, physically distanced while they're in there. We're going to use multiple entrances in all of our buildings for arrival and dismissal, and we'll be sending all that information out. So if you're dropping off or picking up, you'll know where to go, what doors, etc. And then, of course, the busing, we'll have doors for them as well as they come in. Again, if we're compelled to close for whatever reason, we will continue remotely. Right? We will not miss a day because of that. And again, students whose parents have selected the remote option, we will expecting those students to be at class every morning, and go to the classes or lessons as scheduled. And we will work with the remote parents exactly what that means and looks like. And again, we'll have a more defined picture of that next week after we've received all the parent surveys that have come in and made your choices at that time, right? Especially at the elementary level. So we will be working very closely with our remote parents just so they understand the expectations and et cetera. We can make sure we're meeting their needs as well. So again, for the remote model, you'll be here for all your lessons and classes. We do take attendance. We're required to take attendance for students, whether they are remote or in person. We will be providing training for parents, again, just so you fully understand Google Meet or Seesaw and the grade level and any of the other tools that your child may be using at that time. Now, we understand that some students, especially the young ones, are going to have difficulty sometimes maybe attending classes, let's say in the mornings for childcare reasons, etc. Right? Therefore, our teachers will be creating some what we call asynchronous digital lessons, right? Which means they're either going to record their live lessons or pre-record, okay? So that students then can access them later on under the supervision of their parents. And then these will be archived, and teachers will be able to utilize them at a later date if necessary for remediation purposes. Also want to point out too that for students who are remote, special ed and intervention services will continue in a remote manner, and your special ed teachers will work, case providers will work with parents, et cetera, on how to make that happen as we go forward. So we're very conscious of that, and we want to make sure that we meet all the IEP goals for our students. So that's the the overview here. And again, I know there's been a lot of questions going there, and I appreciate my leadership Kyle. He's kind of answering them. And so I'm just going to pop back on the screen here and open up the chat. Stop sharing. And I'm not sure if anybody's questions were not answered. We will get some pictures of the classrooms. They're a box with chairs 6 feet apart and rows and aisles. It's kind of like a 1950s setup. And at the elementary level, which in all honesty is kind of sad, because we certainly know all of our teachers and our elementary teachers certainly make such welcoming classrooms, and we're going to have to be limited on some of what we can do furniture-wise. We still have walls. And of course our teachers are welcoming, so it is about the people with that. But we will get some pictures up, or we'll do a virtual walkthrough here in the next couple of days, so you can just kind of get a picture of that. I'm hopeful we can do some things too, whether you're remote or in person ahead of time. We just got to get some more additional guidance from the powers to be at the state, what we can do before September as far as letting people in the building, et cetera. Like we can do it, we might try some of that as well. Again, I know this is a hard decision, and I emphasize with you, again, as a parent, I have a high school student and 2 kids in college, and that's a whole different dynamic with college kids because they're college kids, all right, and what can happen there. So I've personally had many conversations, my wife and I, with our own kids about it, and how to be safe, etc. With that. On ours, both off campus, and our daughter will be fully remote at Buffalo, and my son will be in a lot of in-person learning because he's a lot of studio work. So how do we manage that, and how do you manage that as adults? I mean, they are adults for that. And for our high school junior, the same thing. She better have her mask on. Her dad's not going to be real happy when she's in the school for that. But we're going to, work through it as a family as well. And I know each of you are going to make what's the best decision for your child and children, and we're going to respect that. And that's why we want to make the remote version as equitable as the in-person version as possible. And we want to make the in-person version as safe as the remote version model will be. So there's a little gap in safety and little gap in learning as possible amongst the two options that you have there. And so I know some of you, you may have buyer's remorse. You may have chosen one, and then after a couple of weeks, you'd wish you had chosen the other, and I understand that. And the reason we're asking for a somewhat, a commitment till Thanksgiving time is just, honestly, logistically, we don't want to have people bobbing in and out because it's just going to disrupt our processes, and we want to make sure everything's safe, which way we go. Right? But we know things are going to come up, and life happens in other ways. Right? And so if you've chosen a model, we're not going to, slam the door if you come and ask, what are some other options and stuff like that. It's not going to promise anything though, right? Because we just got to do we have a procedure and process as far as letting kids come in or letting kids go remote in that. So, just make, it's hard. I understand. And I hope you can, you'll make the best choice. That's all I'm going to say. I have faith in every parent in our community that you're going to make the best choice for your kid. And I'm going to promise as a superintendent and as a dad as well that we're going to do what's best for your kid, as far as education goes and learning in our schools. So, and we'll work together. We're partners in this, and we're going to make it work. We're going to be CA strong. We're going to have CA pride in doing it, and we're going to come out of this as stronger, I think, as a school community. And our kids. I know it seems hard now to think, but they're going to come out of this stronger as well. When hopefully science finds a cure and we can move forward from this. I'm just kind of scrolling through some of the questions to see if they were kind of answers. Yeah, we're gonna have supports. We're gonna make sure there's gaps. We get that. So we're gonna go where the kids are. So if our teachers are masters in their craft, they're gonna move their instruction to where the kids are, and then bring them forward. As much as we can for that. We understand that. As far as cleaning and disinfecting, the products it's interesting. The products we were already using are like very good for COVID. Right? So our processes, we're going to be doing additional disinfecting, but our cleaning, disinfecting, we were already doing. Right? And so we didn't feel it necessary to have a cleaning day, to do these things. We had the tools and the resources to do it on an evening basis, if you will. And even throughout the day as well, as far as cleaning and disinfecting goes. So we're really comfortable in that regard. We will be over clean, which is a good thing. And again, we're going to do a lot of training and retraining of our staff on those processes, procedures, and have a very strong auditing and checklist of what we're doing in our schools to make sure our schools are clean. And I know there's a lot of fever questions, and I hope everybody understands how I'm hesitant to sometimes answer these, but all I'm going to say is if the child has a fever, we're going to send them home. We're going to suggest, recommend if it's fever only, that you still go to your doctors, okay? Because it doesn't hurt to do that, or walk in or something like that, and get their take on things. If it's a fever and some of the symptoms, right, then you're going to have to go to your doctors or to a healthcare provider. And then they will decide whether the child needs to be tested or not. Right? Because again, I know there's been some conversation as parents, we all know this. Fever and then some of the COVID symptoms are still, again, oftentimes just happen in our kids. There's a lot of them there. So, but the doctors will make that call. And the Greene County Department of Health is working on creating easier access to be tested. Right, and so once they have that settled, we will announce that. We also have a local company who's trying to ramp up. I forget what they call them, but the 24-hour test, right, as well. So we're hopeful that happens. It's one of our own parents actually, so we're hoping that may occur, and insurance and all that would kick in for folks who need that. Right? So that would be a great, if needed, a great resource for such a rural county like Greene County, but. We go so far with what we can do, and then we turn it over to the parents and the health providers to do that. And then if we get notified of a COVID-19 case, then we have our very specific protocols that we must do in partnership with the Department of Health. We've actually added some software that'll help us do the contact tracing inside our schools for students. So if a student tests positive, we will very quickly be able to go back and see all the potential contacts you may have had. All right, and the rule of thumb, by the way, is 15 minutes in close proximity. That's what I've been told by the Department of Health and others. So passing in the hall is not a contact. But 15 minutes of close proximity. So and again, the health department will let us know who then must also go home if anyone. After a positive case. So yeah, so if kids are homesick, they can plug in remotely on any day. If they're just home with chickenpox, they can have remote learning. Yes, they can beam in and have remote learning. Yeah, definitely. So that'll probably hurt some kids' plans on wanting to stay home on occasion. So, but we'll, maybe snow days no longer will happen. Who knows? We'll talk about that another day. Yes, but if kids are home for whatever reason and they're able, if they're able, then certainly they can beam in and be part of the class, on that particular day. Definitely. Again, with the mask and teacher discretion, with the teachers, we're going to rely on our teachers to kind of, make sure everybody's safe before they have the kids take the mask off. The expectation is that they will provide mask breaks, period. I will not tolerate a teacher who makes a kid wear a mask 7 hours a day. So I'm going to be more blunt than that, but that's, kind of how it's going to work. But again, they're going to do it in a safe way, and they're going to make sure all of our kids are safe, and it's going to vary. You might have, 5 kids in that row have their mask off for a while. They put it back on. The next 5 kids, et cetera. There's a lot of different ways to do it, throughout the day. But it's just, I don't understand how we can have an 8-year-old wear a mask for 7 hours straight. It's not going to happen. Not sure if there's any other questions that haven't. I see. Thank you, Mrs. Miller and Mrs. Copleston and some others. Mr. Martino's answered some questions here. Yep, kindergarten starts the 21st. Caitlin, yeah, answers yes to your question, Caitlin. So the remote schedule for elementary, in all honesty, we want to see how many remote students there are in elementary and how it's going to be. The foundational plan is if, let's say they're originally going to have, Mrs. Patterson as a teacher, then they would be going into Mrs. Patterson every day and being part of her class. Right? But if we have 20, kids in the same grade who are all remote, we may look at creating our own remote class for those 20 kids. And have one of our teachers, so a teacher will have that. That'll be their class, so to speak. And then that day will be, obviously it'll be adjusted from what a typical day would be, different reasons. But we want to have our kids be able to interact with other kids, really minimally virtually for that. So we have a couple different layers of possibility for our elementary students, for those who are remote. But all I can say is that they will receive the same, level of instruction. The learning expectations will be the same. The work will be generally the same. There's going to be some, obviously, modifications. There can be some things that kids can't do at home that they can do in school just because of the resources. But we're going to try to eliminate that as much as possible as we go forward. Yes, we have Christina's asking about our, I hate the word isolation room. We will have separate rooms. Yeah. So if a child comes down to the nurse and they're showing a fever and other symptoms, then we'll have separate locations in the building, isolated from everybody else, where they'll wait with an aide or an adult with them until mom or dad come and pick them up. Yes, and if the kids are outside and they're going up and down the slide, they're going to need their mask on because I know they're not going to be 12 feet apart. That is the other, more so middle school, high school, because they have band and choir. But for phys ed class and for choir, they need to be 12 feet apart. And so our music department is going to come up with ways to modify the performing arts program here for choir and band. So our kids can continue in those programs in some way. But we're not going to have 100 kids on risers, shoulder to shoulder to do a performance. So, but we will have other ways of doing that and other ways for kids to showcase their talents in music as we go forward. And again, in phys ed, they need to be 12 if they're running around and in those things. So again, our phys ed teachers will come up with ways to modify that so that they can take their mask off. So there'll be a lot of outside recess or outside phys ed as well, and we'll accommodate as much as we can. Teachers will have opportunities, weather permitting and space, and we're trying to figure out ways that classes can go outside. Again, it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a definite work in progress. Fortunately, we have a lot of grass and not pavement around our schools, so we're trying to figure out some ways to open up or create some outdoor class space for that. If that can happen, that'll occur. But we're not going to take desks outside or anything like that. I want to remind everyone, and I think it's been put up here a few times, but all this information, including this presentation, is on our transition to reopening website. And I don't have the link to right here in front of me. So it's, we'll put this in the chat here in a second. So it's kind of the one-stop shopping for all your information. Again, we'll continue to use social media and other avenues to make sure you are informed when we are informed. Again, a lot of things are going to start rolling real fast once we get the majority of everyone's your choices in. And again, Monday's the deadline for that. And I thank everybody who's already done that. Again, if you have buyer's remorse between now and school or something, if these deadlines are for Monday, let us know. All right, with that. But obviously, I have not had any word about the YMCA yet. We are okay with them being here for an after-school program. So, but we have not heard back about that program. So. I shared the link there so I get all of our information there. We also included a little bit more, not more detail, but more just separated out our remote plan, our contact tracing plan, and our testing plan. So they're on there, including that one diagram I shared earlier, a little flow chart as well. So welcome. So I don't see any more questions going on here, and silence is awkward, even virtually. So so we're going to let everybody go here tonight. Just a reminder, we're going to start up the middle school. It's a separate Google Meet. It's on that link that I just shared, and we'll share again. So there. Actually, and so you can so if you want to attend another one, a lot of it's going to be very similar, but there's the link to the where we're at. So I just want to again say thank you to the administrative team for all the hard work they've been doing all summer, and it's really since March. We've kind of had our war room going here constantly, and as things have changed and guidance has changed, etc. They've done a fantastic job, and I can say without hesitation, your kids are in great hands with your principals and Mr. Castle and Mr. Cardino and Houlihan and Coppleton, everybody. We have a fantastic leadership team here, and every time we talk about something, our first response to each other is this going to help keep kids and our staff safe? That's the first thing we're always asking. All right, and I can say, as a superintendent, when I wake up in the morning, okay, what am I going to do to make sure all 1,213 CA kids are safe? That's my first job and last job, day and night. I'm on that. So we will do everything we can to make sure that occurs. As the world changes around us in that regard. So don't hesitate to reach out to any of the administrative team. If you have questions, please rely on us to get the facts. I know social media sometimes can go in different directions than facts, so please reach out to us and we will give you the information. We pride ourselves on transparency, and so when we know things, we will let you know as well, for that. So I just want to say, again, thank you for being here tonight. Again, for being a partner in your child's education and future. And, and I was going to leave you kind of one thought here as you're thinking about your kid, just thinking about, what's my dreams and aspirations for my child? What do you want to see your child become for that? So think about that, and don't ever hesitate to share that with your child's teachers or your child's principals. We're always looking to make sure that your kid can achieve their extraordinary success. So again, thanks, and have a wonderful night. And I said the middle school will start at 7, and the high school will start at 8. So we have a triple header tonight. And again, if you want to go another night, they're on our website too. Those occur Monday and Tuesday. Thank you.